morning, world. This is Steve Rao, the host of Pod TV and Roku TV's World Edition. And I wanted to open up today's show before I head out for my city council retreat. I greet you live from North Carolina. Of course, I'm in Morrisville, but we are the eighth largest state in the union. And yesterday, President Joe Biden visited our state to talk about the American Rescue Plan and Bidenomics. I'm going to try to break it down for you based on some of the remarks that I heard and spoke on some media outlets yesterday about the president's speech. The president visited North Carolina to highlight the $3 billion of the American Rescue Plan and the bipartisan infrastructure law that was passed in law about a year and a half to 2 years ago. Now, what the president talked about, actually it was about a year and a half ago, the president specifically came to North Carolina to announce an $82 million investment to bring internet access, high-speed internet access, to 16,000 more households. This is in addition to the $1 billion that the governor of our state received from the $25 billion from the American Rescue Plan. The president highlighted the American Connectivity Program as well, which is actually reducing internet bills by $30 a month, and also assisting small businesses and even larger businesses of putting off fiber optic cable. He highlighted Comscape in North Carolina and Corning, who are investing hundreds of millions of dollars in creating thousands and thousands of new jobs. And speaking of jobs, the president did emphasize that inflation is down about 2.5%. Prices are still high, and so he wants to help the American people. But he wasn't excited in the fact that unemployment when he became the president was 5.6%, and now in North Carolina it's under about 3.5%. So unemployment is down. He also highlighted the tremendous infrastructure projects that are taking place in North Carolina. About $469 million for clean water, renewable energy projects, about $9 or $10 billion on roads and bridges and infrastructure. And these are actually creating jobs, but there's also investments in high-speed rail and those kinds of things that don't necessarily create jobs, but reduce the amount of time it takes to get from one place to another. I could go on, but at the end of the day, it was a very interesting address by the president. What's interesting is why this message isn't really being conveyed to the American people, as President Trump and the Republicans are saying the opposite, that the economy is worsening, that we are headed to a recession, that our foreign policy is a bit awry. But at the end of the day, I think the president, in my opinion, should have been doing this about a year ago, maybe even a year and a half ago, looking at the actual results and jobs of resulting from his investments, the $3 billion American Rescue Plan. Only time will tell whether 9 months will be enough to convey to the American people, are we better off now than we were 4 years ago? I think there's an argument to be that yes, we are, actually. We got through the COVID pandemic. Unemployment is down. The money that's been floating in the economy prevented us from hitting a recession. And yes, we've had to fight off inflation, but the Fed will reduce interest rates, hopefully by 3% by the end of the year. And if we can avoid a recession, it might very well be the good news President Joe Biden needs to stay living in the White House. Now, can he do it at the age of 83? Well, he looked pretty good yesterday. So we will see. Let's get started. I'm going to bring in Mark Lee and the team real quickly to just wrap up with the president's historic visit. Go ahead. I went off my photographic memory. The number that I forgot to mention also was 14 million jobs, new jobs created. In North Carolina, about 2.7 million in the last year. And the other thing I forgot to mention in my remarks is $31 billion of manufacturing investment in North Carolina. And many of these are in semiconductors, chips. And, the CHIPS Act was a big part of that because, most of these chips were being manufactured in Taiwan. I don't know what it was like in Canada, Sasha, but during COVID, to get a car in the U.S., you have to wait 5-6 months. And what happened was now that we're producing these chips here, Wolfspeed, which used to be Cree, VinFast. These are companies that are producing these chips in the U.S. and it's creating thousands of jobs. So maybe, just maybe, Scrap and Joe the scrapping man from Scranton might just have a fighting chance. I don't know. I'm starting to feel it. I think he's going to win again, guys.
Speaking of scrapping Joe and all along those lines, and you alluded to it earlier, one of the things that the Republicans try to do is paint him as feeble because he is in his early 80s and all along those lines. But my own dad is 83, and I know some other 80-year-olds that are very spry and definitely get around quite well. But I just wanted your impression of him in terms of his physical health and his mental acumen, because that is one of the things that they try to do is paint him as feeble.
Before we get to Sasha, and I've got to leave in about 5 minutes because I got to head out to retreat, but I'll be back on Monday. But before we get to Sasha, what I will say is that alertness and his ability to deliver the speech and connect with people was very strong. Physically, he looked good yesterday, standing upright, alert, obviously a little drawn in, weight loss a little bit. One thing I did notice, though, initially he thanked Deborah Ross for being there. No one really picked up on it, but he goes, it was kind of strange. I picked up on it. He was like, well, yeah, she came earlier to get a picture and then found out that Deborah Ross was never there. She was in Washington. And he was like, that was kind of weird how he had kind of a mind slip. So maybe, just like the classic old man, you just forget things, right? And he covered it up pretty well, but I'm surprised the press didn't pick it up because he goes, oh, yeah, and I got a picture with her. And then he goes, oh, no, that's right. She's in Washington. And but that was a little weird, right? But, it's.
Like I said, that is one of the reasons that they paint on him. And I'd love to hear Sasha's take on that as well, because one of the things that I've seen, and definitely there are some Trump issues out there as well, and I might get to some of those with Sasha and you stick around and everything, Steve, but I do know you've got that council appointment, is that nobody ever really picks on Trump when he has those slips as well, because he's had some slips, both in terms of his coordination as well as in terms of some of the mental gaffes that he's made as well. But I just wanted your take on that, because it does seem like there is a double standard that is going on in some degrees, because there are some gaffes that Trump has made as well. But I just wanted your take on that, Sasha, and if you think there is a double standard from maybe our national media.
I think it's very important who is Joe Biden's opponent. If it's Trump, then it doesn't matter how well Biden will show. It all matters how badly Trump will be shown to people, especially independents, with all this legal problems that he has and all his very unappealing face. And there are people talking about, I don't like Donald Trump, but I like his policies. And I don't understand what people mean by that, what kind of policies they exactly like. It's I'm always sometimes I'm asking people, so list me his policies that you like, and they have difficulties because they are repeating the memes what they listened on Fox News and other stations friendly to Trump. So there is no substance in it. All kind of policies what they're talking about, I see none. So if Biden will continue what he's doing, become a little bit more aggressive as the time goes by, I think the time is too premature right now to do anything drastic. But I think May, June would be a good time, getting a little bit more active, getting more aggressive on Trump, provided that
Right.
Trump will be.
I think a lot of it depends. I mean, and that's a good point. And my final thoughts are this. I mean, I didn't really get into like what's going on in the world, but the main thing is the attacks on Houthis, the continued, war, and obviously Shasta is going to update us on Ukraine, the war in Israel, demand for oil. Price will continue to rise for oil because the demand is still there with OPEC. But I think at the end of the day, a lot of it does largely depend on the economy. And I think it does bode well for the president that unemployment is down in America now, that there have been more jobs created and that this whole idea of these manufacturing jobs coming back has worked. I think if he can point to these specific examples, I think it's really a marketing issue, though, to be honest with you. I think that his age, he's stumbled a little bit, a lot the last year. That doesn't help him at all. I think that there's been so much money doled out that yesterday was the first time I really heard, okay, this is the money that went into the internet, and these are the results, and these are how people. It's almost like he needs a slide deck when you're doing a sales pitch, saying this is it. And he's got 9 months to do it, and I still think he's got a chance. I don't think it's a slam dunk. I agree with Sasha. I don't think it's a slam dunk for Trump.
No, I hear you. But one of the things I was curious about, Steve, is that the Republicans have their own issues as well, because apparently Trump is ready to take on McConnell and the Senate GOP on the border Ukraine deal and all along those lines. So there is a lot of those conservatives, and some people would call them MAGA folks, that are very much interested in how that deal is handled. And I do understand that there was a deal that some of them are not happy about that averted another government shutdown. So I do wonder sometimes what the general public of America will be thinking about some of these political maneuvering. But you're into the political world, so what are your thoughts around that? Even this notion of trying to get him off of some balance, because I think Trump compared himself to a road cop and cited the something with Obama and drones as a reason that immunity should be allowed for him and everything. But what's your take on some of these issues that are dividing the Republican Party?
Well, first of all, I mean, okay, I think that the Republicans need to get their act together, first of all, and ask themselves who is the best person to take back the White House, right? Number one, right? So these issues that are dividing the Republicans, they need to unite around the right person. And I think Donald Trump is the wrong person for them right now to unite the Republican Party, because there's going to be such a rift. And I think he can lose against Joe Biden, whereas Nikki Haley is much more stronger. So in terms of the immunity and things like that, I don't really know. I mean, at the end of the day, I think that they've got to unite about why Joe Biden is the right guy for the job and why Republicans would be better for the job, right? That's the key. But the Democrats have to focus not so much against Trump, but focus on what they're for. And that's what the president did a good job of yesterday. But so much of the media we hear is just Trump, Trump, Trump. We know Trump is crazy. We know he says crazy things. It's almost like he's getting their attention off of what they need to be focusing on, which is the economy and jobs, right? Now, Trump, yes, Lee, can invigorate the base. He's a showboat. So I hope that answers your question. I'm not a Republican. I don't understand the sausage of the Republican Party, but their messaging is also off as well.
Yep, and they've also got some conflicts that are going on. There's the whole cases around the 91 cases that involve Trump. I think it's 91, if I remember correctly. And then you've got the Hunter Biden incident, and apparently Hunter Biden has agreed to appear for closed-door House depositions at the end of next month on February 28th, after he was having the risk of being held in contempt of court. So he agreed to a private deposition with the House Republicans. So depending on what comes out of that deposition, that could also play some interesting things with the politics as well. And apparently Marjorie Taylor Greene, another one of those interesting people, has led that MAGA fury over that crucial spending bill and all along those lines. I think Nikki Haley even came out and said something about forgiving Trump would be healing for the country or healing for the nation. So I think she was trying to kind of keep herself safe with that Trump camp and everything. But y'all take on that.
Yeah,
Sasha, you go first. I'm going to comment after Sasha.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to mention when you're discussing the election issue that there is no such thing today as a Republican Party. It's a party of Trump. Everybody there is dancing to Trump's tunes. Even the Speaker Johnson, he is Trump's puppy. So there is no more independent branch of government such as the House led by Republicans, because it is led by Trump essentially, and therefore there is a symbiosis of that House and the presidency. So there is now no three branches of government, only two, and even that we'll see how well it works if the judges appointed to Supreme Court by Trump will start making the decision based on their allegiance to Trump instead of the clear, real legal issues. But we'll see about that. So therefore, there is one scenario when Trump becomes nominee, and that basically closes everything. There is no Republican Party; it's a party of Trump. Now, if Trump is, for some one reason or another, is not becoming a nominee, then it's becoming an open issue how quickly Republican Party can clean itself from the Trump's image and Trump's programs, if there are any, because all I hear about Trump is let's make America great again and election was stolen. I never heard any fundamental issue from him. So
Hey, Mark,
therefore,
I got to run, but have a great weekend, guys, and we'll talk on Monday.
Yeah,
And
sounds good. And
wrap up the stuff going on in the world with the Middle East and everything.
yeah,
Okay.
we'll get to the Middle East and some of the other stuff as
Take care,
well.
Steve.
Yeah, we appreciate you being here.
Sasha? Yeah,
Yes.
well, I want to speak to Steve, but he's gone, but that's okay. I'll speak to Sasha. One day Trump's not going to be relevant, either because his age or death or whatever. What that is limited. What do you predict is going to happen to the Republican Party? His base is just going to disappear?
No. In fact, it's a very good thing if Trump will be no longer a factor. There is a great possibility for Republican Party to rebuild itself and become a real political party with its own agenda, with its own values, and that would
No,
be.
I don't disagree with you, but do you think his base that's loyal to him now will buy into that?
Well, again, if you say that Trump is no longer a factor, whether he's in jail or he passed away or whatever, so his base will be absorbed by a normal membership of Republican Party. They will
Or
become
not.
just
I think there
members.
was an apathy among his base before Trump was relevant. They were just not happy with it.
Hey, Lee, can I answer a counter question to you? And I hear where you're going with that, with Sasha to some degree and everything. And I think Nick has brought it up. I brought it up on a couple of shows as well. That apathy that is there, because I actually read a letter from one of our local unions that you weren't on yesterday and everything, is a apathy that is there among a lot of the camps or the coalitions, because both parties have a coalition, whether we want to say they do or don't. But that's just the way politics work. You win by building a coalition of one sort or another and everything. And there is a serious question in both parties, I would argue, as to where do you go from now, if I can use that kind of analogy that was even involved in the civil rights movement and everything. And I don't know that either party has an answer, but my question to you is, do you think that either party has a true answer should we have this supposed Trump Biden election, no matter who wins? Because I don't know that anybody has really set themselves up to be the candidates of 2028 in a significant way. And I'm definitely missing the youth voice and a lot of other voices as well. So my question to you is kind of similar to what you asked, Sasha. Is either party prepared for a continuation after we get past this Biden-Trump era? And I'm calling it the Biden-Trump
I like the question, Mark, and I tend to think no. I don't think Biden is the best that the Democrats could produce. If it is, it's very sad. And then the same thing with the Republicans. And once Trump is gone, which he will be one day, who's going to be there to fill his shoes that will attract the base and invigorate them? I don't see anyone.
Well, they already have people that are standing in line for that, Lee. First of all, the Trump party is really the Tea Party. If you go back,
there is truth to what you're saying.
Well, if you go back in history, you see the Tax Enough Already, otherwise known as the Tea Party, and they were the very right wing of the Republican Party, and they didn't really have a leader, so it was like a headless horseman running around or a snake without a head. Then Trump tapped in and said, "Hey, I'll be your leader." So he basically took the Tea Party and it became the MAGA Party, which is really the Tea Party, which is a wing of the Republican Party. Now, after this debacle, which will take place within the year, I guess, there will be, in probably 4 years from now, a new Trumpster. And we've already seen Ramaswamy is one of them. DeSantis is another one. The Republicans will, and then you'll have your moderates like Nikki Haley, and she's going to be, trying to appeal to the normal Republicans. So you're going to see a shift. Now, the real problem, which I see, and I just ran a Pod TV LinkedIn poll again, okay, is Biden is getting smashed by Trump, and I'm saying 75 to 25. So I know that Steve likes Biden. He meets with Biden and all the other stuff. it doesn't matter. I mean, the thing is, right now, Trump is smashing Biden 75-25. And you say, well, he has all these lawsuits. He'd be stupid enough to vote for. It doesn't matter. He's 75-25. So he's like, really, and this is LinkedIn.
Nick,
LinkedIn is really
Yeah.
pretty smart people. It's not a dumb America voting for him. These are smart people voting for him. So the Democrats have a real problem, and they don't recognize it. Here's what they recognize: nothing. And I do understand that No Labels is trying to recruit people and stuff like that. But third party success in America is like next.
Yes, this is very low.
Mark, can I just follow up on Nick for just a second? I don't understand something. Biden's the president. We're told physically, mentally, everything. There's no question there. Why is he not 24/7 out in the press and the masses touring, meeting people with his numbers down? I don't get it.
First
To
of all,
answer
he's
your
got
question, that's
country
kind of
to run.
what
That's the problem.
Steve
Number
was
two, the
alluding
guy's 80
to,
years
because
old plus.
He has a
No, but like I said-
microphone wherever he wants it.
No, but
Yeah.
and I agree. You can have the microphone whenever he wanted. We can go back in time, and was even before I was born, and I think it was before everybody here was born, and
He should
everything.
be on every
But if
Sunday show.
if you remember, FDR, who was also very feeble, used to do regular radio talks, from what I remember in my history and everything, and they were talks to the nation, and he wasn't in the most best of health at that time that he was the president in the last century and everything. So definitely there are efforts that he can do, and that other presidents that have been older have done as well. So definitely I remember
There's
some of
never
those.
been a president older, Mark. I mean, the thing is,
Well, I've said, but
I think his handlers are.
I'm using the
scared of him.
parallel. I know that he's been the oldest president, but I'm using the
Yeah.
parallel of how when he was and I think he was in his 70s or maybe 60s at that time, but he was having, and that was their version of the 80s, because the society is getting older, Nick, and everything, and
I
people
think
are
it's-
living longer. But I'm just saying that to Lee's point, those kind of radio conversations, the calls to the press, and even what Steve is saying he's doing now, because I've heard this is the second or third visit of the Biden Harris team and everything into the area. So I do think that they are starting to travel more to the swing states, and I think we're going to see that for the rest of the year and everything. And a lot will be interesting to see how he handles that. But a lot of people are saying that he is more agile than people expect him to be and everything, and is more mentally acute than people expect him to be. So whether that's true or not, only time will tell, and whether he still gets hammered for some of these.
Mark, he can put that to rest. He could put that to rest very easily by daily doing live interviews, press conferences daily out there.
You're right. I mean, he should be on television like every day, on Meet the Press, Face the Nation.
They would love to have him on there.
Doing something. And
the View, even whatever.
I know.
No, I mean that's kind of what Clinton did, because Clinton definitely got out there and did a lot of presidential. And Obama presidential things and everything. But hey, Lee, I did have a question for you based on something that Sasha said, and it's what I've been hearing as a criticism as well. And then I've got a lighthearted comment to make about the federal government, and I'm going to get to some of these world issues. But definitely one of the things that I have heard people say is what Sasha just said, which is that even with the MAGA, it's a lot of this conversation about what went wrong and what is not being done and how he's being persecuted. And I'm not saying whether that's right or wrong. Everybody is entitled to their opinion. But I have yet to hear an actual true platform. I mean, like even the Democrats, no matter what you think of the issues, they do push some issues out there. Now, some of these issues might be problematic, like the CHIPS Act is not always favorable to some of those in rural America. And abortion has some people that are pro the idea of the woman's right to choose, but there are a lot of others that are anti-abortion, but they are pushing those conversations out there and are taking a stance. I have yet to see a real stance from particularly Trump. So what is his platform?
Because he knows that doesn't win elections, Mark. I mean, your positions don't win elections. You win elections based on cult of personality. And so because of that, why should he put positions out and put where somebody could disagree with his position?
He can talk about his 91 indictments. That's much juicy.
There we go. There could be
any program, whatever he can come up with. By the way, have you heard any definite Trump's program back in 2016 or 2020 There was no program. It was Make America Great Again and
There we
other
go.
bullshit. That's all what he did.
Sasha?
No, I agree with that. And, I mean, and even Kelly brought that up on World Politics because sloganism does work. I mean, one of the greatest slogans out there, no matter, and I'm going to kind of pick on the, and don't take this wrongly, because I know that you have friends in that if you're not this yourself and everything, but one of the greatest slogans that I used to see many a car have back in the day was not a political slogan. It was WWJD, which is what would Jesus do? And a lot of people had that slogan on their car, but that's 4 letters. And a lot of people even had to figure out what the heck it meant because they just saw WWJD, but it was kind of that question of what would Jesus do in modern times. And that's been out there. Lee, how long has that been out there? It's been out there for probably a good 20, 30 years.
It's been a long time. But what I don't understand is there's also another expression. I don't care what you say, I care what you do. And you have 2 presidents or a former president. Why don't they just compare the 2? What did they do during their 4 years? Time in office. Just compare that. Forget about what they said they will do. What did they do?
And
Yeah, but
what-
you're looking at everything from an intellectual standpoint, and people don't vote based on intellect. They base
Emotion?
on emotion, what they feel.
But hold on a second, because that's where I was going to go, and then I do want to get to the world issues as well. But hold on a second. But 'cause I was going to get to some of these world issues as well, including something that North Korea is doing. But before I get to that, speaking of world issues, there is something that a lot of people enjoy. Lee, like I said, I am not a driver. I've said that before on the show. I get around by mass transit and everything. But that being said, even as a mass transit person, I really do enjoy some of the things that are on people's back of their license plates, and even some of the signs that are up on the roads and everything. But apparently, federal officials there in DC, sometimes they ain't got nothing better to do, are bored and everything because they want fewer jokes on highway signs. Because actually, the story that I said, there's a one that says, "Slow down, you must slow down, you must may the fourth be with you," meaning because I think it's like the play on the force from the Star Trek lessons and all that. But apparently, Washington has no sense of humor, so they want a no joke sign, a no joke zone. And this is actually the state of Washington, not Washington D.C. But I'm going like, can't they cut a break and everything? And we're going to have this expand to the federal government as well, where you can't even have fun with your signs. And we're going to kind of restrict people's rights to have a little bit of humor with those public signs. And I do know that even with the abortion issue, people got in trouble because some people did not want to see certain imagery on those signs, no matter what your stance is on abortion. Because even if you are pro-choice, they can be somewhat problematic looking at a fetus in its kind of murdered or killed state and everything.
Butchered.
So
I use the word butchered.
Butchered.
well, I wasn't going to use that word because, like I said, I take a different stance than other people do.
Yeah, but Mark, that goes to what the Republican Party is about, is federal government overreach. And this is going in front of the Supreme Court. And I told people about this. They're looking to overturn the Chevron doctrine. And then when I say Chevron, all the lawyers know what the Chevron doctrine is. None of the non-lawyers know what it is. Okay, but I'm going to explain to you the Chevron doctrine in a nutshell. Here's the doctrine. So Steve is the head of the Department of Labor, or Lee is the head of the Department of Agriculture. Lee can, as the head of the Department of Agriculture, can draft rules, regulations, and laws and stick them out there as if they're the law, because Congress says in a statement, so draft laws that comport with our regulation. Okay. And what happens is Lee, who's the head of the Department of Agriculture, decides to create massive amounts of laws based on the fact that he was giving the ability by Congress to draft whatever he wants. So Lee, who's the head of the Department of Agriculture, becomes de facto king of the agricultural movement.
We have it with all the federal agencies doing this.
Yes, you're right. It's called, and then when me as an attorney go, wait a minute, this has nothing to do with the law, and you sue the federal government, they say, no, the Chevron doctrine says it gives deference to Lee to draft whatever law he wants, and we lose in court. Okay, seriously, this has been going on for a long time. The Supreme Court of the United States is now looking to overturn that, which now makes it a level playing field so that the administrative agencies can't play Congress, which they've been doing for 40 years. I know that, right. And so the thing is, in law practice, the overturning of the Chevron doctrine is huge. Outside of that, the common person that you talk to, they don't have a clue.
Nick, what do you think the chance of it happening?
Yes, a very good chance of happening. As a matter of fact, they went through oral arguments the other day, and there's a good chance you're going to see the Chevron doctrine overturned. And so I went to my DOL people that hate the DOL fiduciary rule, Lee, and said, hey, look, these people have a big problem. They don't even know they have a problem. Okay, that
Lee
Chevron
and Nick
doctrine being overturned could throw the DOL reg right out.
Throw a lot of things out of the rail. But Lee, Nick, and even Sasha, if you want to jump in on this as well, one of the things I was alluding to, and I got where you were going with that as well, is that this whole imagery thing can be very interesting, even in the ways that imageries are handled. Because I'm going to take that issue that I just mentioned. If you show a picture of a what some people would do, use that word that you just used, a killed baby or a murdered fetus, and
the word butchered,
whether a fetus is a baby or not, that is a very startling image, no matter what side of the issue you are on. I mean, even if you are pro, it's a very startling image. Now, the counter argument that a lot of people will make is that, and I've even heard some on our network, and I've even made it, I know Kim has made it, of what do you do if the baby comes into the world, and are you going to take care of the child? There is not really a counter image, even though there's a lot of teenagers that run into trouble and run into stuff, but you can't really, there's not really a face of a troubled teen that you can show. I mean, you can show a kid with a gun going off in an area and everything, but that doesn't have the same kind of impact as, say, a image that is the fetus being, ripped out or whatever. So that's my question, is that I don't even know that there would be a kind of imagery counter that could exist no matter what people's stances are, because it's such a startling image that people hit. And I don't care what side, I just think that it impacts people in a certain way, and that's one of those media manipulation things.
Does the probative value outweigh the prejudice of the statement? That's a hard
I love
question.
what you just said, Nick. Say it again, please.
Probative value outweigh the prejudice of the statement. And lawyers use that all the time. It's actually a way to object to evidence that's submitted. In other words, if you show somebody in court, somebody who just got mangled and all the blood all over it, they go, well, the prejudice outweighs. You say the prejudice outweighs its probative value, and you can actually have the judge decide not to enter that into evidence. Right. Okay, now the thing is, we're not dealing with court, we're dealing with the court of public opinion. To what extent can the right of lifers show mangled fetuses and gory stuff to try to attempt to sway the what do they call it, the
pro-choice
people that have the right to their body? What do they call
pro-choice? Pro-choice. Most women say they have the right to their body.
Reproductive rights. Okay, Mark, I've heard this over and over again, especially on CBS. Reproductive rights, and they always talk about reproductive rights, but they never talk about the rights of the unborn. They never do. And so the thing is, and you can tell, and this is how, Mark, the media is slanted. You can tell when somebody's slanted by the words that they use. If they use, well, I can't believe they're against reproductive rights. They never say, I can't believe they're against the right to the unborn. They never say that.
Like I said, the media, that's a whole topic that we can have on the media show, but media word and manipulation is very much used on both sides.
Manipulated every time you listen to it. And
it's both sides.
There's two sides to the argument. Either the unborn Nick, has rights or has no rights.
Nick, there's an old saying that I believe in, and everything is part of my journalistic training and everything, in which is that there is more than two sides to every issue. There's usually multiple views that are out there and everything. So there's more than, because that's the standard belief that, it's either hot or cold, if you want to use the temperature example, but we do know that there is a lukewarm and there are a variety of
we'll listen to Sasha, and then we'll bring in the person who has all the answers, because he's waiting backstage, Jatovy. See, I don't have to think anymore. All I do is listen to Jatovy.
Nick, I would like to ask you, if you believe that unborn babies, let's see, after 6 weeks or whatever it might be, have in fact being a person. So abortion kills a person. So the harm is being done to a person. So that person has rights to legal representation. So if lawyers would have a list of pregnant women, girls, or whatever, and starting from a certain time when the unborn baby is 6 weeks old, they have already a lawyer who is representing that unborn baby. So then, if there is a harm, whether abortion or something else, he will sue a shit out of everybody, including the mother and all relatives and everybody else, for very substantial damages.
No, but Sasha, hold on a second. I think if I remember correctly, and
baby's
totally
dead,
correct me if
so
I'm wrong, but wasn't there a movie that was actually the theme? And I was trying to remember the name of the movie, but it seems to me that there was a movie that the theme was the baby having rights and actually kind of like suing their parents. And I forgot the name of that movie and everything, but it does seem to me that there was a movie that had kind of that as a theme, but I can't remember the name of it, but I'm hoping you can remember it.
I'm trying to remember, but there was, of course, where the way that we're, so the idea that we must force women to have the child because I feel that my moral choices or my views or my medical background or my sanitation worker background gives me authority over that woman is The Handmaid's Tale.
Yep.
Just because I'm a male.
Wait a minute.
That is
Females have an
where-
opinion also. Why'd you say just because you're male?
Do you, Lee? Do we celebrate a birthday or a conception day?
No, it's a birthday, but you made a point that
So,
males
Lee,
have no
do
say in the
we-
matter.
If we
A lot of
celebrate
females
a
are
birthday,
against it.
even in the Bible doesn't celebrate a conception. The Bible celebrates a birth. It's even written in the Bible that it talks about the birth of a
Well,
child.
I think there are those who do celebrate a conception.
So even what we go down is what the road that we are going down in term, and this is why it's called pro-choice. Nobody is pro.
No, I get that. I got a question for you though, and I'm not going to disagree with you because I know your position. But going with your position that it's not a life until birth, that's your position, right?
Here's a question: if a woman is raped, must she have that child?
My opinion?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a life. The baby did nothing wrong.
So no matter what happens to that woman, she's
No, I didn't say
raped,
that.
if
You did. I didn't say that.
Hold on. I just asked you a legitimate question. You
Yeah.
said that child is alive, so she must have the baby. So I am not misquoting you.
No,
No
you're
matter
not.
what
Not on that.
happens to that woman, even if she's 13 and she is raped, you
Yeah.
are saying she has to have that child.
Yeah, well, I
The
mean,
only exception I personally have, if it's
Hold on,
life
wait,
of the
wait, wait,
child-
wait. For both of you. And you started off, Lee, you said the only exception, which means that you are saying that it is okay to take that life now. Now we're negotiating on the terms
life?
that you are comfortable with.
No. What I'm saying is one of them are going to die.
Lee,
If the
again,
doctors are saying
if
one of them will die.
a 13-year-old child, this happens.
Yeah, I know.
If
I know it does.
so you're wanting a 13-year-old child to
No,
be
I'm not.
forced to have a child.
No, I'm not. No, I don't. I don't
So
want
if
that to
she's
happen.
raped, she can have an abortion?
No, I didn't say that.
Absolutely.
I don't want.
So
rape
wait,
to happen.
no, Lee, listen to what you're saying now. You said that if a woman is raped, she must have the child. If a 13-year-old child is raped, you're not saying that she must have a child? How can you have it both ways?
It's very simple. What I said before was I'm against killing the baby, regardless of how the woman got pregnant. Only except
So
with
again-
one exception, the life of the mother. Okay.
Again,
Now, if she's
you are
raped,
stating
yes,
a
as a 13-year-old, yes,
13-year-old child
Yes.
must
Yes.
have a child.
yes. I'm on the record for that. Now, I got a question for you, Toby. You're saying up until birth, it's not a live birth. It's not a live person, right?
What I am saying,
I'm asking
no,
you.
here is my stance. Here's my
What?
stance. Write it down if you can, if you need to. My stance is it's none of my business. It is between
as a
the woman-
society,
No,
we have-
listen.
Was slavery your business? You didn't have a
Listen.
slave.
Listen, you're making some crazy analogy because you're trying to justify it. My position is it is none of my business. It is between the woman and her doctor.
That's your
It
opinion.
has nothing to do
For
with me.
society to function, Jacoby, 1 second. For society to function, one
For
second. Let me finish my
society to
question.
function.
Let me
Lee,
finish my question. I listen to
Lee.
your question. Have the courtesy, listen
Go.
to mine.
What is your
For
question?
society, what, Jacoby? For society to function, we need to have laws. We need to have consistent laws. Okay, we make laws. You can't sell your right arm. You can't sell your left eye. Okay, you can't amputate healthy
Lee,
limbs to sell
Lee,
to
if
someone.
I go and
Let me
masturbate
finish my
now,
question.
should I go to jail?
No, I listened to you and I sat there and I listened
But
to your
again,
question.
you're
I answered
making
it.
a poor
Why can't
analogy.
you
You're
listen to
going
mine?
down some road
You don't have that
doesn't make
ability?
sense.
You don't like
But
my
you're going
question? That's
down
why you're
the
Hold on a
talking
second.
over
What's the
me?
question, Lee? Hold a second, Jacoby. I think he was trying to go into a question. Now, what was the question that you were
Is
asking?
there a point in time that society can say yes or no, this is a live person?
Lee, it has
Yes or no?
nothing to do with me. The woman and her child, her doctor, whatever. The medical decision has nothing to do with me.
And if
I
I can
heard your
understand,
answer. I heard your answer. Mark, can I ask you a question? Is
No.
there a point in time that we consider this a live person?
Lee,
From-
no. Wait,
I'm talking to
Let me
Mark.
ask you a
Jacoby,
question.
I'm
Let
not
me ask
talking
you
to
this.
you.
Let
I'm
me
talking
ask
to
you
Mark.
this then. Hold on. Let me ask you this. What? So you are saying that you know better as a medical professional than the woman and her doctor. Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is, as a society,
No,
we
you
need
just-
guidelines.
but hold on a second
You are
to
saying-
answer your question. Hold on a second, Jacoby. To answer your question, and I did because I remember that movie, and I actually am a fan of that movie. One of the concerns that people have had with The Handmaid's Tale is that it is this notion of the patriarchal part of society actually making those decisions and it becoming kind of like dictated by the man's point of view. And that I have a problem with. And it's one that is considered myself, even before Alan Alda did it, as one that has some views that are very much what some people might consider pro-feminist and all along those lines. So I have a problem, just like Jacoby does, with society trying to make certain moral dictations and everything. So that's where I have a problem with, when there's a moral decision that is being made. And that's kind of what the notion of Handmaid's Tale was that there were people that were literally put into almost like slavery because they were supposed to be doing the surrogate role. So they were playing babies, but it was like forced surrogacy. I have no problem with adoption or surrogacy as it is now, but the Handmaid's Tale, it was forced surrogacy. It was the women were being and made to have children and were treated almost as chattel slavery, if I remember the movie correctly and everything.
Yeah, that's the TV
Joey,
show.
can I respond to Mark for a
again,
second?
That's the TV show in the book. So, Lee, are you stating here that you know better than a woman and her doctor in medical decisions?
I think as a society, we need laws that are
Do
based
you
on
know
biology,
better
not
than a doctor and a
subjective.
medical Do you know
About
better
what?
than a woman and her medical doctor
About what?
about her medical decisions?
It's not a medical decision.
It is a medical decision.
No,
it is a
it's not.
medical procedure.
It
is a Nick. Don't
Nick,
do
I got
that
Nick.
because
I
you
let me
know
just
for
answer
a
Joe
fact
Biden's
that
second.
the medical procedure.
Please don't rain the
Hold on a second. Hold on a second.
Mark, let me answer Jacoby.
Legally, it's a medical procedure.
One second, Mark, let me answer
Tell
Jacoby for a
I'm
second.
lying.
The
Say what?
theory of the decision that was read was that the child was viable. In other words, could live outside the womb. Okay, that's what the decision said in Roe versus Wade. The time it is livable outside the womb. In other words, a doctor can come in, take the kid out of the womb, and it is live. It's a person. That's the time that the abortion ceases. And whether you like it or not, yes, we have a vote. And the reason why, under your
And
logic,
that was Roe v.
Joey,
Wade. At
if
what
the woman
time did they
beats
say?
the heck out of the kid?
What
and
time did
kills
they
the
say,
kid
Nick?
after they're born?
What time
After
did
they're
Roe v.
born,
Wade
you're
say?
saying, "Oh, I
What
don't get
time
to
did
make
Roe
that
v.
decision."
Wade
Come on.
state? What
Come
time did
on.
Roe v. Wade state?
Come on,
Which was
Snowflake.
legal? Which was
know.
the time that you're talking
Roe
about? At what
versus
time?
Wade was actually correctly decided. If you read the case,
But they
The
took it
only
away
problem-
because they want to put in 6 weeks or do like Lee and not allow the woman to make her own medical decision. So what time did Roe v.
it's not a
Wade state?
medical decision.
It is a
Sorry,
medical
sorry.
decision.
I'm gonna kill my kid because it's a medical
It
decision.
is a
Come on.
medical
Come on,
decision,
Snowflake.
Nick. It is
No.
legal. It is
No,
a
you're
medical
you're
decision.
killing-
Look it
you're
up.
killing
If
somebody.
you cannot
who's
argue
viable
with
is not
me
a
about
medical-
the whole medical. So
Yeah,
you're
you
saying
know,
pregnancy itself.
my kid
You're
is-
saying
my
giving
kid
birth is not a
I'm gonna
medical
kill him.
decision.
Medical decision.
Giving birth. So why
I'm
did they do
having
it in the hospital?
psychological
Why do they do
problems
it in these?
because I haven't-
It is a
Hold
medical
on
decision.
a second.
It deals with your health, Nick.
Hey, hold on,
It is
folks.
a medical
Hey,
decision.
hold on a second. Hey,
You
hold on
know
a
for
second.
a fact.
hold on a second.
People that
I
are,
want to ask everybody here
pro-death,
that's on this
the people that
moral
are
kick.
pro-death,
Hey,
the Democratic Party
Nick,
is not a
don't
good
even
Lord.
try
No,
that.
hold on a
You
second.
lost the argument saying
Nick,
that, hey,
no, hold a
it's a
second.
medical
Nick.
decision. When
Nick,
it is.
hey, hold on.
Give her
Hey,
rest.
folks, hold on. Just really quickly, in terms of this medical decision, because there's a lot of people that will argue that abortion can be a form of birth control and everything along those lines. Because I've definitely heard that argument, and I'm not saying that that is true or not true. But I mean, at what point are we saying that? Because we're going by the point of conception, then, and I don't know that everybody even knows at exactly which point. Because I mean, if you have sex, you could. What point are we saying the conception began is my question to everybody. And are we also saying, because we're going down this rabbit hole and everything, there are some people that would argue that if you self-satisfy, and I'll just leave it at that, people can realize what I'm talking about or not talking about, that you are literally killing people at that point as well. And I do know some people that are very religious that are against that notion, but hey,
Just have your
the
two-
very
Bible's
popular
against
thing
that.
in the world.
Look, Mark.
The Bible's
Mark,
against that. It's spilling seed. To be
Huh?
polite.
Toby is into medical procedures.
The Bible says what?
Toby, have your
Spilling
tubes
seed is-
tied,
is-
baby.
It's
And if
frowned
you're a
upon.
man, clip, snip, and it's over. So
The
you
Bible,
can't-
I hear what you're saying, but that's like the extreme version. And I can tell you that if you look at the studies according to
Yeah.
Kinsey and some of
That's
those people
right.
that study sexuality and everything, and there's a whole lot of people that are breaking that
Yes,
rule.
yes.
And I mean a whole lot of people. And just like there's a lot of people that are breaking a legal rule that exists in many of the world and everything. And I've even mentioned this before, because a lot of people also enjoy a certain sexual activity that in many of our states
tie your
is
tubes.
also illegal as well and everything. And still on the books is illegal and everything.
Tie your tubes. Have a vasectomy, have a hysterectomy, and then you don't have the issue anymore. Since you're
So
so
you're
into
just saying
medical-
to have a vasectomy and that would solve all of these
Yeah.
problems, and then it wouldn't matter
Yeah.
about some of these absurd
All-
laws that exist, because there are some
all
states in the deep south
the
that it
right
is still
body
illegal
people,
to
go get
have
your
any form
hysterectomy, go
of
get your
even
vasectomy,
consensual
and then
heterosexual oral.
take it off the books.
And I just said that.
There's a medical procedure. It's called a hysterectomy. There's another one, a vasectomy. Go do that and then go have fun. Goodbye.
But the thing is, we will force.
No, it's because
we will force women to have children, but we would not force men to have a vasectomy. You know why? Because we live in a patriarchy. Therefore, we hear all men sitting here talking about, hey, abortion.
Jacoby, are you in favor of rapists being
funny thing is,
sterilized?
fighting for the two guys sitting there fighting, saying, "Well, women should have abortions. Women should have abortions. Women shouldn't be able to choose their own medical procedures."
Hey, listen. They should do as a strategy.
By the way, a definition of a medical procedure. Definition of a medical procedure. A medical procedure is a course of action intended to achieve a result in the delivery of health care. A medical procedure with the intention of determining, measuring, or diagnosing a patient condition or parameters is also called a medical test. Therefore, it is a medical procedure. If you cut your finger off, it still is a medical procedure. You still have to get medicine after that. There's an intended medical purpose behind it.
There's a thing called a hysterectomy.
Let's kill the whole idea that it's not a medical procedure, because
have
it
a
is.
hysterectomy, and we don't have this argument.
I mean, we won't do that. We won't force men to have
hold on a second. There's a whole for those
Wait,
people.
wait, Mark, Jacoby has a good point. I actually agree with him. Rapists should be sterilized. Why not, Jacoby? I agree with you.
There we go. Yeah, why not?
There we go. Solves the problem in the future.
I would agree.
Here's actually even a better.
Have you ever heard? Hold on a second. But then you raise a whole other question. Hold on a second, Jacoby. That raises a whole other question, because remember how many people were falsely accused of rape and everything along those lines. So then we're going to have this whole thing where you're going to sterilize people that might not have actually committed the crime, and that would even come down to the measure of.
This is the problem, and this is why we run into problems about solving problems within our society. Rather than doing the actual common sense thing of allowing women to decide their own health care, instead of we come up with these ideas. Let's force this. Let's do this. Rapists should be sterilized. But now Mark just points out, just like with the death penalty, we've had wrongful deaths. So that's government sanctioned death, which, yeah. And then the same thing with gun violence. Same thing with gun violence. Instead of coming up with solutions to deal with gun violence, we come up with bulletproof backpacks. We have school drills of gun stuff, and rather than
Tired
actually
of listening to
the
reproductive.
guns themselves.
Mark, you brought up an interesting point. You're saying
So-
some of these rapists may not be rapists, and
Right.
you know what? Then some of these women that were raped, really, maybe they weren't raped. So Chitobi's argument, we're forcing women to have raped babies. Maybe we're not because they weren't raped to begin with. It was
Ridiculous.
consensual.
Ridiculous.
I mean,
Again,
there have been sexual charges that have been
Yes.
put out there falsely and everything, but I don't think that
Don't go down the
I don't
path
think
of-
that counters the argument and everything. The argument is basically what Jacoby said, which is the right of the woman to choose her health care and her decisions. And I hear what you're saying about
Oh.
the male's part of you and everything, but most of quite a few will have that conversation and all along those lines. But yeah, everybody should have at least a conversation in what is going on. But
Mark, certain medical procedures are not covered by insurance because they're elective, like plastic surgery, for example. Okay, so if this is an elective procedure this woman is having, why should I have to pay, or why should insurance companies pay for women who are pregnant? Then, if it's an elective thing to have your baby, and we don't consider a life until birth, if it's not
Here you
life
go.
until birth,
So
why
now
should we
you're
pay
saying
for?
that- So now are you arguing that pregnancies, because it's an elective thing, should not be covered by insurance?
No, you're saying it's between the doctor and the mother. All during COVID, we were telling people you have to have the shot. It's not between the doctor and the patient. We don't care what the doctor says. We don't care what the patient says. Take the freaking shot. We
Do
were
you
forcing people
understand
to
the
get jabbed.
difference, Lee?
Why?
One is I could have COVID and infect 9 to 10 people around me. This woman could have a child and it's her life. There's a
Jadobi,
difference. What
If
making the
you
correlation doesn't.
if you're
it
having
doesn't make
COVID and infect 9 to 10 people around you, those 9 to 10 people, why is it not on them to choose to get the shot or not? Forget about you.
Because, Lee, it's science. Herd immunity and actually protecting society from society having the number one cause of death for a little while.
If I don't think I
So
want the
if
shot, and I
somebody
don't
is
need the shot,
pregnant,
my
They are
doctor's saying
going
I
to
don't have to get the
impregnate the
shot.
people
Why do
around
you
them, Lee.
force me to get the shot?
Lee, listen, if one person is pregnant, they are not going to impregnate 10 people around them. If one person is sick,
hold on a second.
they're
Hold on,
not going to
hey,
make
Jacoby,
10
hold on a
people- they're
second.
going to
Hold
make
on a
10
second,
people
Jacoby.
sick.
I've got a question because this comes down to that notion. So, Lee, did I just hear you say, because you're almost like contradicting yourself and everything, and I'm
How
going
is
to tell
how
you why
so?
you're contradicting yourself, because you are saying that you are pro-choice in the case of the COVID shot and everything, because you're saying that it should be your
I
choice.
I did say that, Mark.
And so why is it not the woman's choice for her to do the abortion? So that's the whole notion of pro-choice, is it is her choice. And you're saying that you are pro-choice for the notion of COVID. So what is the difference? That makes you pro-choice, because you're pro-choice for your right to deal with the COVID shot.
The problem I have, the difference between it, because I consider that a life. The baby is not getting a choice. Okay, you're forcing the baby to give up his life. You're butchering the baby. You're killing a life. You're killing
Hey,
a
Lee,
human life.
Lee, just to point
If
out,
that would be
again,
a chicken, an eagle,
Again,
or
Lee.
any other animal, you
Lee.
would say you're killing an animal.
Lee,
I mean, by that
COVID was
logic,
the
by that logic,
number
hold on a
one
second. By that
killer.
logic, because I want to see how far you're going with this, Lee. By that logic, because I'm
No, Mark, if you were to compare the two,
I'm actually
Mark,
supportive
one
of Planned
second.
Parenthood.
Mark,
So by
Mark.
that logic, nobody should be wearing rubbers.
Mark,
No,
Mark,
no, even
if you
even
were to
let's
compare
go
the
back to the
two,
COVID thing.
and I say
I wanna
no
play
one
this
should be
rabbit
forced
hole.
to get jabbed, no
Hold
one
on.
should be forced to
Hold
have
on,
an
Lee.
abortion, and no one should be
Lee,
forced
Lee,
to get pregnant.
Lee.
1 second, let
Now,
Mark,
now.
you'll go afterwards. Let me just
Hold on.
finish with Mark. I'll take all your questions. I'll stay late with you. I'll have dinner with you. I'll have drinks with you. Okay, we'll be brothers by another mother. Okay, I have no problem talking to you. Let me just finish with Mark, and I love that when you laugh. Okay, Mark. Okay, I don't think anyone should be forced to get the jab. I don't think anyone should be forced to get an abortion. That's how I would compare the two. The government has no business in my medical decisions, as Jacoby would call them, forcing me to do something.
That's the argument that people have that are pro-choice.
No,
That's
So-
literally what Jacoby just said.
no one's
Lee.
forcing them to get an abortion.
No, Lee, you're taking it the wrong way. You're taking
Could
it the
be,
wrong
but
way.
that's how I'm taking it.
Nobody
And I
is.
love how you're reacting.
Here, if nobody is forcing anyone to get an abortion. They are forcing people to have the child. You are pro choice when it comes to the jab, right? And you're saying
The
that
jab is affecting
Oh,
me.
wait.
I don't want the jab.
Yeah, so you're pro-choice when it comes to getting the vaccination, and you're saying that it's my body, it's my choice,
Right.
and with abortion, you're saying that they must have the child, which is government forcing people to have the child. That's one contradiction in itself. You're saying you can't force me to have this shot, but you can force this woman to have the child, because again, nobody's forcing anybody to have an abortion. You're just forcing them to have the
The
child.
problem I have, and I think you understand my problem, is I consider that a life. I don't consider that the mother.
Okay,
I consider a life.
even take that.
It's not a
take
tumor.
that argument.
It's not a.
Even take that argument, which you are now saying that you're not pro-choice for the woman still, because you're saying that the woman has no choice in the argument. She is forced to have the child. So that's a contradiction in your pro-choice
No,
idea.
it's not.
Lee, again, if
It's
you don't
pro-life.
want to take the vaccination, you are able to choose not to take the vaccination. You are saying
Correct.
that
I
I am
said that.
pro-choice. If the woman is pregnant, she is forced to have the child. She has no other option. That means she doesn't have a choice. That means you are saying that there is no
Jacoby?
pro-choice there. So there
Using
is
your
a contradiction.
logic, then a woman
No,
should
no,
be able to
Lee.
have an abortion. T-1.
Lee, again.
I mean, there are health
You are
concerns.
forced
Because
to have a child. You don't have a choice in that.
You had
That
a choice
means
in getting pregnant most of the time. You agree with me?
Listen, Lee.
Jacoby,
This is where I'm going.
you're
This is where
bringing
it
the,
drives
the,
me crazy.
rare case, and you're
It's not a
making
rare case, Lee.
extrapolations. Yes.
It's not a rare case. If a woman, rape happens. It is not
Duh.
rare. But what I'm saying is, if a woman is pregnant and chooses not to have the child because she finds out later or there's an issue there, you're saying that she must have the child. That is no choice. That is saying, no, you have to. That is being forced. So that's a contradiction.
If you want to call that forced, that's what I said.
Yes, that's contradictory.
No, it's not.
Than the pro-choice. Yes, Lee, if you don't have a choice, then you are forced to. If you have a choice, that means you're pro-choice. It's
So
in the
using your
actual word.
Jacoby, so I'll repeat again what I said before. If you don't want to force a woman to be pregnant, to carry a baby, that's what you said, right? You don't want to force it. Wait a minute. Is that what you said? A woman should not be forced to carry a baby to term. Is that what you said? The government
I
should not
said
force
a woman, in my opinion,
in your opinion,
a woman has it has nothing to do with me. Whatever she does has nothing to do with me.
So Jacoby
So
says it's
therefore,
nothing to do with him.
choice
You're
is her
okay.
choice.
You're okay with a woman having an abortion T-minus.
Now you're going down the road. We're going away from the actual the conversation.
I'm asking your opinion.
We're getting back to the conversation because you know my opinion. You again, we already did the contradiction on the pro-choice. You're pro-choice for vaccination.
I already agreed.
But you're not pro-choice.
Jacoby, I'm asking you a question. What's Jacoby's opinion?
Lee, you said you would answer my questions. You said you would answer my questions, and I'm going down this question path. Now you said you're pro-choice for vaccination. You're not pro-choice for the medical procedure for the woman in an abortion case. You're not pro-choice there. Then let's go to the other contradictory piece of this. You're saying that it's about a life. COVID was the #1 killer in our society for 2 years.
That's not necessarily true because a lot of COVID deaths, and you know this, a lot of COVID that were not COVID deaths.
No, Lee. If a person has diabetes and then contracts COVID and dies, the person didn't die from diabetes. The person died from COVID. They were living with diabetes.
Repeat that. I don't think I heard you right. Repeat what you just said about the diabetes.
If a person has diabetes
and dies from diabetes, but tested positive.
No, now you're not even listening to what I said. Stop. If a person has diabetes, contracts COVID, and dies, the person did not die from diabetes.
How do you know that?
Because they were living with diabetes.
Jacoby?
They contracted COVID. You didn't listen to what I said.
I heard what you said.
A person has diabetes, living. A person contracts COVID, dies.
You're serious with what you're saying?
Lee, again, A person is living.
No, Jacoby,
Living.
I'm just
with
asking you.
diabetes.
Can I quote you what you just said? What I can I
restate
can I
it,
repeat?
so
Can I
we're on
repeat
the
what I
same
heard?
page.
You
I
tell me if
will
I'm wrong.
Okay.
I'm going to repeat what I think I heard. You tell me if I'm
Okay.
wrong. If a person has whatever disease X, comorbidities, call them what you want, and they're alive, and on the deathbed they contract COVID,
I never said deathbed. Never said deathbed.
they die,
No.
and they die
didn't listen
with
to what I said.
testing positive for COVID.
Listen. Look, right here. I'll even
Mark, are you hearing the same thing
this
I'm
right
hearing?
here. This right here.
I'm trying to follow the argument.
This is what they have. They've got this pink star. Okay, they're living with this pink star. Whatever
Disease
disease
X.
you want to throw there, they're living with that. They contract this white square, right? Once they contract this white square, they die. That's what I said. Do you know?
How do you know it was the
what
COVID and not the
what-
disease X that
Do
killed them?
you know what they died from? The white square, because they were living with this. They were
Jacoby?
already living. They were
Jacoby?
living, breathing, and going through life with this. They contract this, and
That's-
then they
Yeah,
die.
I hear you. Let's flip it. Someone has COVID, okay? I had COVID for 16 days, okay? Someone has COVID. Wait, your argument. They have COVID. They're living with COVID.
Did I say they were living with COVID?
No, you were saying they were living with diabetes,
Oh,
and they
then
got
what are you
COVID.
going down? What are you going down?
You're assuming it's the COVID that killed them, not the disease
you're
X.
not listening because you won't. They're living here with this. They're living. I said nothing about they're living with COVID. I said they're living with this disease.
Yeah,
They
you said that.
contract
You're
this,
talking about
and
some
then they die.
diseases that are lifelong diseases, and they may take you eventually and everything. I mean, I've got a relative that passed of MS, but they lived with MS for 35 years and everything.
Mark,
So
why does this Jacoby assume it's the COVID that killed him and not something else?
Because it's a
He's not a
fact.
doctor.
It is a fact of life, Lee. You're not accepting it because
You're
stuck
actually
on the-
saying on the record that
It is
anyone
a
who died
fact,
with COVID
Lee.
died from COVID.
Lee, if I contract the flu right now and the flu kills me, what killed me? The flu. If I am living with diabetes, and then I contract the flu and the flu causes complications with my diabetes and I end up dying, you know what really killed me? The flu.
What if you had the flu first
is
and then
a
you got the diabetes? Jacoby, what if you had the
It
flu
is a
first?
medical thing, Lee.
Jacoby, what if you had the flu first? Your argument. You had the flu first. You're living with
Lee,
flu.
what are you trying to, Lee? Again, you're coming up with all this stuff because you just cannot admit that it is a fact. And why you won't? It's because you have this diehard belief that it's some made up situation. That's why when I pointed out the deaths, you said, hey, it's just because, those are all fake and made up.
I didn't say that. I said a lot of deaths attributed to COVID were not from COVID.
You
Even
just
the
said
CDC
that is
said
saying that they are
no, the-
made up.
No, people had 4 or more comorbidities for a lot of these people. They were on their deathbed.
Lee, again, if I am living with this,
Which is a potentially fatal disease, right?
which is a potentially fatal disease,
And
they
people
don't
die
give
from that.
me a time of death. They don't give me a date of death. But I am
people do die from
living.
that. People
Lee,
do die from that
I
disease.
am living with this.
Which people do die from eventually.
Lee, which people do die from. But I
Thank
am
you.
living with this.
Thank you.
And I am living. Oh, I'm living up a storm.
Of course you're living.
But I contract this and then die. I die because of this, not the original. And your argument that you're trying to make is because you just will not. You have this wall that you are determined that it is a fake thing. It is false. They're making it up, as you
I
stated.
didn't say that.
You
You're
li-
misquoting me. You're misquoting me.
okay.
All I said was
Here is
that
all you said. This is what I heard.
You're
just like
misquoting
you
me.
said.
you're
this is
misquoting me.
what I
You can play it
heard.
back. You're misquoting. I
want me
said
to
a
play
lot
it
of
back?
deaths
I am
attributed
not
to
misquoting
COVID
you.
were not
Listen to-
COVID deaths.
Listen,
Jacoby,
you said that a
car
lot of the
accident-
deaths were not
deaths from car
COVID
accidents
because
were
they-
attributed to COVID.
no, they
You
weren't.
know that.
No, they
Yes,
weren't.
they were.
They weren't.
Google it.
Google
Yes.
it. Don't believe everything you've seen on the internet. I mean, I just had a discussion with a dude today who was so high up on this edited TikTok video, and he was determined.
But do you
Oh
hear what
yeah,
you're
they're coming
saying?
after
You're saying
Christians. They're coming
patients
after
in
Christians.
hospice
Well, dude,
who have
no,
weeks
it was
to
not-
die.
it was an
They
edited
get
video.
COVID.
Lee, you're doing the same thing. I've just literally told you they weren't, and it's been documented that they weren't. It's just wild that again.
Oh, yeah.
all
One
the-
second,
all the
Mark.
facts
I gotta
can
go,
give
but you're
you.
gonna hear this
Oh,
from me
here's-
and from Toby. We're gonna have to agree to disagree on this one because I see what you're saying and I just disagree with you. I think you got the facts wrong.
And that's fair enough if folks can agree to disagree and everything. And like I said, I mean, as I've said before, and that's why I was trying to see where
And
you
we're
were
still gonna
going,
virtually
Lee, and
shake
everything.
hands.
And we're getting ready to wrap up the show because I didn't even get to the world issues that
Yeah,
I wanted
hug.
to get to, like North Korea and everything along those lines. But there is, I mean, there are some beliefs, and I'll just say it on the record, since you're talking about things on the record that, Lee, you have some very fundamentalistic views and everything, and I don't necessarily agree with
I'm
all of
very
those.
black
but
and white in my life. And it carries over my politics.
Well, like I
I'll be
said,
honest with you.
that's your opinion. And like I said, because I heard some very Christian evangelistic kind of views, and I'm not saying that that's your orientation, because I don't know your faith walk and everything, but I'm saying, but I did hear, because I've heard other friends of mine that have the similar view about the seed and their thoughts around masturbation, abortion, and a number of other things. But like I said, we can still be friends. I don't have to necessarily agree with you and all of those different views and everything. Because definitely, there's some things that you said I was going like, nope, don't necessarily agree with that, Lee.
Yeah, Mark, on a personal note, did you take a look at your LinkedIn account today? I went on there and they said you don't exist.
I have been fighting that for a while, and I'm still fighting it because it's a LinkedIn hacking job or some hack person that came in, and we're going back and forth talking about it to LinkedIn. So hopefully it'll be fixed in a week or two. But yeah, there's
Because
some
if you
serious-
of all people, I don't believe that that they would do that to.
yeah,
Me, okay. Jacoby, I don't know, but you, I don't believe it.
Yeah, well, the Facebook and those fan groups will get everybody. And yeah, while I like LinkedIn is tied into some of those organizations as well. So nothing really surprises me. You just have
I'll
to
see
fight
y'all
them
on
and
Monday.
hopefully
You
win.
guys take care. I'll see you next week.
All right.
God
See you
bless.
next week.
Take care.
Take it easy.